They can't just look at you and say you have money. The brain is always taking shortcuts. When you meet a person for the first time, let's say you're going on a first date and you look a little bit chubby, you could make the same money, come from the same family, have the same level of education and whatnot. Because the first time you are coming up to a person, you have, which is the thing that the brain is picking on to say, okay, this person, because he has this outfit in, is this kind of person. First impression, the brain is basing off of the information that it sees, like that's coming from literally the receptors of the eyes, and looking through, okay, what if a person is putting on an outfit like this based on the people that I've met in the past? What story can we tell about this person? What is this person likely to be about? How is maybe their family background? How are like... Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in on Stories and Status, a show in which we explore what it's like to be human. I'm shooting this at 7:19 p.m., which is not usual. I usually shoot during the day, and recently got a light, which, yay, good news, which is going to allow me to shoot at different times of the day. I was only, like, for the last 13 episodes, I was only restricted to shoot during the day, which can be very difficult if, because I have a lot of other things that I need to do during the day. And sometimes when I had something that I really needed to get done, I wouldn't get the time to sit down during the day, which meant that I wouldn't be able to have the light coming through the window, and led to me skipping, the episode. And that ain't fun because I want to be consistent. But now, with the light, hopefully, we're going to be able to shoot at any time and be a little bit more consistent, which I have tried to be consistent. I think I only missed 2 weeks, which is not, terrible. And yeah, I'm very excited. This is one of the investments that I'm making into this podcast, and I'm going to buy a microphone next, like a legit microphone which I'm really excited, and hopefully that's going to give you a little bit of a rich sound experience that's better than the mic that I have on my camera right now. Yeah, I'm super stoked to up the production quality of the podcast, and hopefully I'll get to remake the room and fun stuff coming up. Speaking of, investing in the podcast, thank you so much for investing your time and attention into listening to me. And I know I have like a few people who really come every single week, returning viewers. Yeah, it means the world to me that you can spend your time listening to me. You have a lot of other different things that you can not only watch but like spend your time doing. So I really appreciate you. And I'm glad that you find what I share useful. Okay, let's get into this week's episode. And I have a few things that I want to share with you, as always. And the first thing is diving deep into things as a way to enjoy them a little bit more. When it comes to things that like bring joy to my life and things that bring joy to your life, I'm sure, we have different things that we like. I personally like, as far as like entertainment, I like movies, I like storytelling, I like shows. Have a lot of enjoyment that I get from music and listening to music, and recently trying to learn, how to make music, which is connected to what I'm trying to say. I like food, and I like working out. I like listening to podcasts. I like reading books. The books is coming to the show. It's always going to be here. And yeah, even if we have like different things, the idea of like going deep into the things that like bring you joy, and noting down when something like bring genuine joy in your life, and trying to learn, not only spend time doing the thing, but also try to learn how the thing is made. So like to solidify that, like if you love food, right, but maybe have not, like me, never spent time like really cooking, like cooking, which I know like some people just don't like to cook. But if you spend a little bit more time learning about the dishes that you like, so let's say you like a fried rice dish, and you spend a little bit of time learning how to make the dish, and not only like reading about it or watching a video about it, but actually going and buying the ingredients, and getting in the kitchen and like trying to make the dish. By learning how to make the stuff, and knowing what goes into making the stuff, I find, at least when I started doing that, that I enjoy food a little bit more. Maybe it's not like I enjoy it a little bit more, but I enjoy it a little bit differently, right? Like the thing, like I didn't used to like care about how the food smells. I only cared about how the food tasted, right? And tasted as in like it's just delicious. I wasn't like saying it tastes like this, or I wouldn't know what is tasting like what. I wouldn't care to even like know what is bringing the smell that I'm liking, or that I like about the thing that I'm eating or whatnot. And for me, like being able to, know like exactly what is bringing the taste that I'm liking about the food that I'm eating is super, like it brings a different dimension of me liking the thing. And it brings a different relationship that I have with the food. And I know I'm being like super woo or poetic about this, but I think it's like a very valid thing. And when I started like listening to music, and like I've been listening to music for a long time, but when I started like actually getting into, which started by me trying to learn storytelling and video editing, and then started learning sound design, and now I'm like very interested in like actually learning the music theory, and planning to buy an equipment, and like actually not like professionally do music, but like as a hobby that allows me to, the little I've learned so far have allowed me to like enjoy music in a very different way. The kind of music that I would pass by, that I wouldn't listen to, I listen to now, because I'm picking up on different things that I wouldn't pick up on. Like what qualifies for a good song is different from what used to qualify for me, at least what a good song is. And I only would go for songs that make me move, that makes me want to like dance and jump and like have a good time. But I like that. But at the same time, I like a chill song that is only piano and no lyrics and no nothing, just like ambient and piano. And you would maybe say that that is boring, but for me, I find that being able to, oh man, I feel like I'm doing a terrible job explaining this, but like being able to love something and know what you love about it, and know not only how it makes you feel like you want to jump and whatever, but like know that this drum that comes in at this moment, and this beat that drops at this second, is what's making me like want to feel the emotions that I'm feeling. I don't know, like brings a different going to use it again, dimension of like why you like the thing and how the relationship I have with music is like completely different. Like it feels like a whole character in my life now. And I spend so much time laying on the floor with my earphone or earbuds on, just listening to music and listening to like, this is like so nerdy, but like listening to little things like a club that comes in. Like I pay more attention on like lyrics and the words and what they mean and how they connect to life and stuff. And when I'm watching movies, because I'm very interested in storytelling, and I've literally like read about 4 books now about storytelling, like I have a little bit more advanced understanding of storytelling than I used to. And that allows me to not only like enjoy the show, enjoy the movie, but yeah, I enjoy it, but for different reasons. Like I'm actually paying attention on how the characters are being introduced and how the tension is being created and how like what goes into actually getting people to care, like what the director and the editors and everybody who worked in the show is doing from a technical perspective to get me to feel the things that I'm feeling. And I know that might sound like, maybe that is not how you should be watching a movie, because shouldn't you be lost in the film? And I do get lost in the films that I watch. But now I even like find myself like watching something twice. Like I literally watched Silo, which is a show on Apple TV, and it's a really good show that I rewatched the show, not the whole thing, but I watched like a couple episodes because I wanted to like from on a frame to flame. Like I literally downloaded the episode. I think was episode 6 of season 1. Put it in DaVinci, which is a video editing tool. Cut it like, flame by flame to try to understand why did they cut to a wide angle instead of like a tight angle at this moment when this person is about to say this, when this is whole thing is going on and stuff. And I feel like that gives me a little bit, forgive me if this is technical, but like the idea behind it is that if you genuinely like something, let's say you like I don't know, reading, right? Try to learn how to write. Because by learning how to write, you will enjoy reading a little bit more. Maybe a good example would be like cooking, which I mentioned already. Like if you learn how to cook, if you've never cooked before, but you love food, if you learn how to cook and you learn how to specifically make the kinds of food that you like, the dishes that you like, you will appreciate the food a little bit more. Maybe that's the word to use. It'll still taste the same. You might pick up on things that you wasn't picking up on, but you will appreciate the thing that you consume or that you've taken for granted, because now you know the work that goes into making this stuff, right? If you love cocktails, which I'm drinking espresso martini right now, not exactly. This is my first time drinking this. Not like drinking espresso martini, but drinking espresso martini in this cut water can. And the fact, when you learn how to make espresso martini would ideally feel a little bit different, or maybe you would appreciate it a little bit more. Like I know for mojito, I love mojitos, and I learned how to make a mojito a couple months ago. And when I made the first one, it sucked as hell, but at least it felt like when I do get like a real good mojito made by someone, I appreciate it a little bit differently. Like I don't know, like I like it a little bit, not enjoy it a little bit more, but like appreciate the work that goes into it. So drinking that makes me feel it's not necessarily that I would like, enjoy it more, but I pick up on different things, and I find that I appreciate the thing like way more than I would and necessarily would if I didn't know what goes into making the thing. Boy, was that difficult to explain. Okay, the second thing that I wrote down is low key, most of success comes down to signaling. What I mean by that is that when you think about success, for me, it's like not, success in life, but success in different fields or different parts of life, which you could say, I don't know, career, relationships, what else is there? Career and relationships. If we only just like look at that, the thing that leads to success, to you being successful, regardless of how you define success, because this can be really subjective. Okay, let's look at how I define success from a career perspective. From a career perspective, success for me is that I'm doing something that I enjoy, right? That's number one. Like it has to be intrinsically enjoyable for me, right? I write and make these videos because I intrinsically find joy in it. I love doing this stuff. I love expressing my ideas, like something coming to me as just a thought and turning that into something that can be shared with the person, and the person find it valuable, or the person finds it relatable, or whatever it can end up being to the person on the other side of the screen. That for me is intrinsically enjoyable, right? So if I'm doing something that I really intrinsically enjoy, and I'm making enough money to support myself and my family, and this is important, a higher probability of me, making enough money to not have to work someday, that is a successful career. And in relationship, you can, define it as well. Like I want to have a family one day. So a relationship, a romantic relationship, success for me would be having a connection with someone, a genuine connection, building a connection with someone that I can build a family with, and a strong enough connection that I can build a relationship to the person and end up having, building a family with them. Okay, so we have what success means to me, and that can mean something completely different to you. But if you think about it, that is dependent on something. And when I say most of success comes down to signaling, by signaling I mean, I was reading a book called This Is Marketing, and in the book, it's a book by Seth Godin, who's a writer and a marketer and an entrepreneur. I don't know if he can define himself as an entrepreneur, a freelancer. I think that's how he defines himself. And in the book, he talks about when you're doing marketing, right? Or when you're telling a story, you need to not only think about, how do they call it? Demographic characteristics of the people that you want to reach, but the psychographic of the people that you want to reach. And Psychographic meaning like what is their psychology? What is their worldview? What do they value? What is their desires, hopes, and dreams? And what are they, what are some of the problems that they're wrestling with and stuff? And that when you think about the psychology of people, the psychology of me and the psychology of you, there are two things that universally people care about and drives most of how we interact with each other. And people who know how to leverage that through signaling the right thing end up making, being successful in different areas of their life depending on how they're using that. And the first factor is status, and the second is affiliation. Okay, status. Because in the world, there's a limited amount of resources, right? You could talk about money, you could talk about like natural resources. It's limited. And because resources are limited, people who have more of the resources that is desired by everybody else, because we're all trying to have a portion of that resource. Could be money, we're all trying to have some money. Could be food, we're all trying to have food. And regardless of what you pick as the resource, we're all trying to have some of it. And the person who has more is viewed universally as a superior person, right? There's like some moral issues that you can discuss there, which is there's no such a thing as a superior person. But as far as like this discussion, status do make a person at least get, higher places from other people. They regard them in a different caliber. And that is not, just a vanity thing to have, because it does affect how that person ends up succeeding in different areas of life. It's like a real thing. Specifically, if we're like talking about relationships, especially for men, a guy who has a lot of money is likely to have a lot more girls interested in being, their boyfriend than a person who doesn't have money or who doesn't have as much money. And I'm not saying like status is only between people who has money and people who don't have money. It's like I said, like it can be about different things. People who has a lot more, connections, and people who in, high positions who know them and recommend them are probably going to get the best job than necessarily they qualify for, or maybe they might have the same qualification as the person next to them, but because the person doesn't have that much connection, they end up getting the job and the person doesn't get the job. And you can say, okay, that's unfair and that should not be the case, but unfortunately that is the case. It's like a real thing that we do care about status and how much value does that person in context to other people, right? And it's not, it's like that's a very important thing to note. It's in context with other people who are in that circle, right? It's, if you were talking about relationship, it's not, how much money does that guy have compared to the rest of the world. It's how much money does that guy have in context to the girls, to the guys that are talking to the girl that he is talking to, right? And that's very, very important to note. Where signaling comes in is that you can have so much money and still signal the wrong thing to the person, to the girls that you're trying to date, and end up, they can't just look at you and say you have money. There's something that they pick on which is where signaling comes in for them to say you have money. And I hate to use money as the example here because it's not the only thing that defines status, but I think the best example that I could find that I think can be understandable by that I would be able to explain. But the reason why that's important to note is because of how the other person picks up on the status of me or the status of the other person. Like the first time you see a person, because the brain is like, has a lot of information that is sorting through, and there's a lot of different things that it needs to care about, not only what is happening around the person, but what is happening within the person. The brain is always taking shortcuts, and it's taking shortcuts and figuring it out as it goes. And when you meet a person for the first time, let's say you're going on a first date, right? And you are in baggy, swaggy outfit, and you look a little bit chubby. Not that I'm saying like baggy outfit is like chubby, because I love baggy stuff, but that is probably going to be picked up on. It's going to signal something different than a person who is in a suit and a tie and has like a fresh cut and is looking like really, I don't know, on point. You could make the same money, come from the same family, have the same level of education and whatnot. But because the first time you are coming up to a person, you have, which is the thing that the brain is picking on to say, okay, this person, because he has this outfit in, is this kind of person. First impression, if we're talking about in the context of the date, that person might, end up, depending on, what their story is and their worldview and whatever, might end up going to the person with chubby, baggy, swaggy, because maybe they like the vibe, or maybe immediately go with the person. And this is not going to be, maybe they're going to give the guy a chance to explain themselves and learn a little bit more about themselves and whatever. But if we're saying this is the first impression the person is getting, the brain is not going, oh, this guy. The brain is basing off of the information that it sees, like that's coming from literally the receptors of the eyes, going to the brain and looking through, okay, what if a person is putting on an outfit like this based on the people that I've met in the past, what story can we tell about this person? What is this person likely to be about? How is maybe their family background? It's like crazy, and I'm like not an expert on this topic and whatever. I'm literally like working through my understanding of the concept as I talk about it, and which is the point of even like me sitting down and talking about these things, because I understand holes in my understanding of the concept that I'm explaining now. But me not being an expert, the reason why I felt like it was important to share is because I feel like understanding this makes me understand the importance of the stuff that I didn't think that important, like how you look, how you talk, how you carry yourself, and what kind of outfit do you have on, or like what. Those things matter a lot. If you're going to an interview, like making sure that you actually you are signaling the right thing. That's like very important, because in one context, you can signal something that could be looked upon, which the same thing could be appreciated in a different context. So understanding the context of where you are showing up. So if it's in the context of a job, what kind of person is interviewing you, what are they into, and what are they likely to, vibe with, and making sure that you present yourself in a way that's going to signal to that person that you are a high value person, right? If you're going on a date and you want maybe to present, not present, but like you want to come off as a nice, fun person to be around and give off a welcoming vibe, the moment they see you, making sure that you actually put on outfit and you go smiling and you present. I hate using the word present because it feels like I'm putting on a show, but maybe you are, but because we are, maybe I'm not comfortable saying that I'm presenting because I feel like that's not genuine. But if I actually think about it, we're all presenting in some way. Like, I'm not the same person with my boss that I am with me sitting down in this room alone, right? And it's the same when I'm out and having fun. I'm a different person. So I feel like maybe we're not presenting, but we're like many people in different situations depending on what is happening around us, and that's just like the reality. But the point being, like, being so understanding that status do define how people see you and classify you, and the stories they tell to themselves about you, and that determines how they end up deciding to have a relationship with you or not, deciding to give you a job or not. Understanding how important that is super super important, because I then have started like taking really seriously how I come off and present myself and show up in the world, because I know whether I like it or not, people are telling stories about me, and I might as well do something about the kind of story that I want them to tell themselves about me, by figuring the right thing and through what they see, what they hear from me, and other stuff. Yeah, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully, you got something of value out of it. I feel like I was a little bit all over the place in terms of how I was explaining the stuff that I talk about, that I spoke about, and partly because the ideas that I'm talking about is like things that I'm learning on the fly, and not necessarily my expertise. But the point of this podcast is not to get like expert advice on anything. It's like me working through ideas and thinking about things that I'm finding interesting and explaining them to the best of my ability. And the more I do this, the more I will get better at explaining or sharing the things that I'm finding interesting, and hopefully it will be a little bit more useful to you. Yeah, thanks so much. I will see you guys next week. Peace.